Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something really remarkable. It's about how a science fiction vision way back in 1964 pretty much nailed the hyper-connected world we all live in now. We're talking about a future that seemed, well, almost impossible then, yet here we are, living it. Our focus for this deep dive is the, frankly, astonishing foresight of Arthur C. Clarke, one of the true giants of science fiction. We'll be looking specifically at his predictions from 1964, predictions about the future of communication and the profound impact he thought it would have on society.
And for this deep dive, our sources are incredibly compelling. We've got excerpts from a YouTube transcript, Clarke's actual words from 1964, detailing this vision. And we'll be comparing that, cross-referencing it with a document that lays out the key telecommunication technology milestones that happened after he made those predictions.
Right. So our mission is clear. We're going to unpack Clarke's ideas, which sounded pretty fantastical back then. Then we'll trace the specific tech advancements, step by step, that actually brought his vision to life. And we'll show just how deeply it impacts your daily life, how you connect with the world every single day. Okay, let's unpack this then. Try to picture it, 1964. Arthur C. Clarke is looking ahead, talking about the city of the day after tomorrow. He thought it could arrive as early as the year 2000. And here's the mind-blowing claim. He suggested cities might not even exist at all.
Wow.
Yeah. But not because of, a disaster or something. No. He pointed to incredible breakthroughs in communications. Specifically, he mentioned the transistor and, crucially, the communication satellite.
It's pretty uncanny how he pinpointed those two.
Isn't it just almost chillingly accurate?
And what's really fascinating is how specific he got. He talked about being in instant contact with anyone, anywhere on Earth, even if you didn't know where they physically were.
Like we do now with mobile phones.
Exactly. He imagined, say, a businessman working from Haiti or Bali just as well as he could from London. And get this, he thought this might happen only 50 years from 1964. So by 2014...
And he was pretty much spot on, timeline-wise.
He really was. He seriously suggested that almost any executive skill, any administrative skill, even any physical skill could be made independent of distance. He even gave that, really provocative example. Brain surgeons in Edinburgh operating on patients in New Zealand.
Brain surgeons across continents. I mean, in 1964, that must have sounded like pure science fiction magic. So what was the core idea behind this? What made him think such a radical shift was even possible?
Well, his core concept was genuinely revolutionary for the time. He said the whole world will have shrunk to a point. He figured the traditional role of the city, as a place for people to meet and work together, it just wouldn't make sense anymore if distance didn't matter for business.
Right. The whole reason for commuting disappears.
Precisely. And he coined that really memorable phrase, men will no longer commute, they will communicate. He said they won't have to travel for business anymore. They'll only travel for pleasure.
That's a fundamental shift.
Absolutely. It wasn't just about convenience. It was a complete redefinition of how we live and work.
Wow. Okay. So Clarke lays out this incredible, prescient vision. The massive question then becomes, how did we actually get there? How did this happen? And here's where it gets really interesting, because this milestones in post-1964 telecommunication technology document we have, it's almost like a roadmap. It shows exactly how we went from Clarke's vision to, having the world in your pocket.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the absolute foundation, you could argue, is fiber optics. It's really kicked off with Charles Cow's research back in 1966.
Just 2 years after Clarke's prediction.
Exactly. Before Cow, sending lots of data long distances was, inefficient. Lots of signal loss. Think tin cans and string, almost. His theory about using highly purified glass fibers completely changed the game. Suddenly, it seemed possible to send vast amounts of data like whispers across continents through these thin glass threads.
Making high-speed global communication actually feasible economically, too.
Yes, and that laid the groundwork for the modern internet. These fiber optic cables, they're the backbone now. So much so that they actually caused satellite use for, fixed phone lines to decline quite a bit by the late 20th century.
Okay, so we have the pipes, the fiber optics, carrying way more data. But we needed a way to organize it all, right? Which brings us to the internet itself. The precursor was ARPANET. That was initially a U.S. Department of Defense project back in '69, connecting its first computers.
Right, mainly for researchers to share data.
But the internet as we know it, that really started in 1983. That's when ARPANET switched over to using the TCP/IP protocol.
Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol.
Exactly. And that was huge because it standardized how data packets moved between different networks. Suddenly, computers anywhere could basically speak the same digital language.
Then, making communication personal and mobile, we get mobile phones or cellular phones. Martin Cooper, famously, made that first handheld cell phone call way back in 1973.
That big brick phone.
That's the one. Then the first actual public network, the Nordic Mobile Telephone System, that was 1981.
Hmm.
But the real game changer for global mobility was GSM, Global System for Mobile Communication.
Launched in 91.
Yeah. And GSM was critical because it became this worldwide standard. It meant your phone could potentially work almost anywhere. That really started shrinking the globe for personal calls on the go.
And think about written communication, how that changed. Email. Jonathan Postel's Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, SMTP, came along in 1982, and that allowed emails to be sent between completely different networks. Before that, email was often stuck inside one system.
Right, like internal memos almost.
Yeah.
SMTP broke down those walls.
Making email a truly universal tool, just like Clarke envisioned for global contact.
It really laid a key foundation for digital collaboration, sending messages instantly anywhere. And then, of course, the revolution in just accessing information. The World Wide Web. Tim Berners-Lee and Robert Kallio developed the prototype at CERN around 1989.
And it went public in 91.
And that changed everything. It wasn't just about sharing files between scientists anymore. It brought a user-friendly graphical interface, point and click.
Suddenly, anyone online could tap into this huge, interconnected web of information.
Which led to the explosion of internet use we see today.
Okay, and let's loop directly back to Clarke's vision of remote business, remote communication. That brings us to Voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP, and video conferencing.
Yeah, the first mass-market VoIP software started appearing commercially around 1995.
And then platforms like Skype, which launched in 2003.
Those made internet phone calls and, crucially, video calls cheap and widely accessible.
Directly fulfilling Clarke's idea of instant long-distance communication, telecommuting, remote work.
Absolutely. It started to really challenge the whole idea of needing a physical office or hiring talent only from your local area.
And bringing us right up to today, smartphones and mobile computing, that really cemented Clarke's vision, didn't it?
Yeah.
The iPhone launched in 2007, and then all the smartphones and tablets that followed.
Full computers in your pocket.
Exactly. Full computing and communication power, super portable. It just turbocharged remote work and this idea of constant connectivity. And we also have to mention cloud computing. That really took off from the mid-2000s onwards.
Storing everything online, accessible anywhere.
Right. Centralized storage, access to your data, your applications from basically any device with an internet connection. That's been huge for remote teamwork and global collaboration, making distributed teams not just possible, but often the standard way of working now. So all these steps, from fiber optics right through to cloud computing, they represent the precise realization of so many of Arthur C. Clarke's predictions. They fundamentally transformed how we all communicate, work, and get information across the globe. So what does this all mean? I mean, it just means Clarke was astonishingly spot on. It's genuinely mind-boggling when you trace it like this, to see how a vision from 1964 played out so accurately in the tech we use every single day.
He really did see the future.
So just to recap, we've explored Arthur C. Clarke's incredible foresight from way back in '64. We saw how his predictions, a world shrunk by communication, work being independent of distance, how they were brought to life. By fiber optics, the internet, mobile phones, the World Wide Web, VoIP, smartphones, and cloud computing. Step by step.
And Clarke himself left us with a really interesting thought to ponder. It was a hope, actually. His hope that when the city is abolished, the whole world isn't turned into one giant suburb. So considering how much we now communicate instead of commute and how globally connected we are, what does that idea of a giant suburb mean for your sense of community, your local identity today? Something to think about.